So Alex, thanks so much for joining us. This documentary, incredible, so compelling. Let's start with free soloing. It's a unique type of climbing because you're either perfect or you're dead, quite frankly, which is very intense, very high stakes. What is it inside of you that compels you to do this type of climbing?
Well, so free soloing is one aspect of climbing. I mean, I still do all other kinds of climbing as well, but free soloing has always been a very important part of climbing to me, partially because it's sort of a test of, I don't know, a test of mastery, I suppose. It's sort of a final exam within climbing. Like you said, it's the highest consequence form of climbing, so it makes sense to sort of test yourself from time to time.
Well, let's talk about this rock, El Capitan. You talk about it over and over again as something you kind of looked at every year like it was staring at you. And you climbed it many, many times with a rope, but describe it to me from a climber's perspective. It seems like it almost haunted you to some extent.
Well, or inspired me. I mean, really, it's
there you go. That's a more positive way to spin it.
Yeah, more positive. It's just, if you've ever been to Yosemite, you know it's just the most striking, the most grand, the most inspiring face on earth, really. It's just so big. Like, words don't really do justice. I mean, even seeing the film on a big screen, it really doesn't do justice to the full scale of the wall. And so, it just really captures the imagination.
We talk about how you climbed it many times with a rope, working that preparation to that morning when you woke up and decided today's the day I'm going to do without the rope. What was that preparation like? How do you go from charting your course to knowing that morning when you wake up that today's the day?
Yeah, so there's basically the physical preparation and then the mental side of it. The physical is pretty straightforward. It's just making sure that you can actually do the climbing, that you don't get too tired, that you don't fall off. Making sure that you remember which hands to use in which order and how to hold on to the different holds. But then the mental preparation is the more vague. It's more nebulous. Like, can I hold my mind together? Will I be too afraid? Will I crumble under the pressure? So the mental side of it is a little bit more. It's harder to quantify exactly, but basically between the two, you sort of work on it until you feel confident, and then I went and climbed it.
Is the mental side the more challenging side for you?
It's hard to say. They're in conjunction, because the stronger you feel physically, the easier the climbing feels. The more confident you feel, the easier it is mentally, and so it's a little bit of both.
So if you get up on that mountain and you have a moment where you get a little nervous, is the only way to go up, or is it possible? I mean, we did see you change your mind early, but is it possible to say, okay, I'm going to just take a second?
Yeah, there's a lot more possibility than people might think when they watch the film, because there are little ledges all over the wall, like natural features. So you could sit down on a ledge. You could yell for help. You could call for a friend. I mean, there was a film crew sort of on various parts of the wall, so depending where you are on the wall, you could potentially ask for help. And most people, there are plenty of other people climbing El Cap with ropes, and most people spend 3 to 5 days climbing the wall and camping. So, if you had to, you could always just sit in one spot and wait for 2 days until somebody comes and collects you. And that sounds crazy, but it's still better than falling to your death. If you just had to sit still for a day, that's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things.
What is it that you're feeling when you're up there?
Oh, well, sometimes fear, sometimes terror. And that's why you see so much preparation throughout the film, is because I've had many other free soloing experiences that weren't quite as positive. Sometimes I get up there and it is very, very scary. And so that's why I knew that El Cap was just such a big challenge. I had to put in the preparation to make sure that I wouldn't have a terrifying experience.
One of the things about this film is that it's about you and your preparation, but it's also about your friends who are making this movie. They're a part of the story as well, and you kind of see that as the climb gets closer, that starts to affect your headspace, that they're kind of around, kind of waiting a little bit. What played into your decision to allow them to make a movie about this?
The crew are all really good friends of mine that I've worked with and climbed with for many years. Several of them are the people that I would have wanted to work on the whole project with anyway, and in many ways having them film actually made it easier for me to work on the preparation, just because there's a certain amount of physical toil involved, carrying your ropes to the summit, rappelling down the wall, carrying ropes, pulling them back up, storing everything. It's a lot of heavy lifting, basically. It's a lot of work, so it's better to split it with somebody. And so some of the crew are also good friends, and they're basically helping me do my preparations. And because free soloing is such an intimate, sort of personal sport, you don't normally talk to your friends about it. You don't normally draw people into it because it's really scary and people don't want to be around that. So having the crew helping me was actually, it was integral to the whole process.
Well, when you talk about free soloing being such a private activity, that was one thing that stood out to me. Is it's almost like this sacred private practice, and it's glorified as being that private practice. You let them into something that's considered by the people who do it a private thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it does seem crazy, but I think toward the end of the film, I mean, I say that part of what was so satisfying about the whole thing was that ultimately the experience I had free soloing El Cap was exactly the experience that I wanted, and I felt like the crew wasn't in the way. And so, you know, the crew may have felt like an added level of complexity throughout the process while we were filming, while we were working on the preparation. But on the day of the actual climb, when I free soloed El Cap, I mean, yeah, there were a few cameras here and there, but I climbed a 3,000-foot wall and I passed, I don't know, 5 or 6 guys along the way. So that means you're climbing 500-600 feet by yourself, totally alone, and then you climb by a friend who's maybe 25 feet off to the side with ropes that are not touching anything that I'm climbing, basically totally aside. And so it's close enough to be like, oh, hey, and like share this beautiful experience, but not really changing what I'm feeling. You know, so ultimately I had exactly the free solo experience that I wanted, but there just happened to be some people sort of around. And honestly, it was nice to share. I mean, they're all really good friends, and we'd worked so hard on this for 2 years. I mean, you see in the film when I get to the top, I don't want to give away the ending or anything, but celebrating with some of my friends is pretty powerful. I mean, we'd all put a lot into it.
I have to know, you're not afraid of falling to your death.
Well, no, I mean, I kind of am. I mean, that's the point of all the preparation. I mean, I don't want to fall and die either. You know, I wouldn't have put 2 years of work into it if I didn't care about falling and dying. I would have just gone and done it on the first day and hope for the best.
Well, I was going to ask you what else you're afraid of, if, you know, clowns or roaches or anything weird like
No,
that.
I think I'm afraid of
yeah.
danger. I'm afraid of pain. I'm afraid of the same things that everyone else is, or that they should be afraid of. I mean, I'm not afraid of clowns because, like, what's there to be afraid of? Like, that's just stupid.
I'm terrified of it.
No, I don't know. I think that I have the same rational fears other people have. Like, I don't want to get hit by a car. You know, I look both ways. Like, I don't want to fall off of something and plummet to my death. I mean, most people that say that they're afraid of heights, I mean, they're not really afraid of heights. They're afraid of falling off the heights and dying, and that makes total sense. I mean, I'm afraid of falling off too, but I'm just extremely confident that I won't fall off of certain things.
So it's very different how the fear drives you. I have to know, what is possibly next for you now that you've achieved this feat? What could possibly be next?
I mean, yeah, honestly, I'm not totally sure. I mean, there are a lot of other climbing goals that I'm taking on, you know, maybe an expedition to Pakistan this summer, basically, you know, remote big walls around the world, various things. But I don't know if there'll ever be anything quite the same scope as El Cap. I mean, it really is the most inspiring wall in the world. So,
pretty awesome. Well, it's an incredible film, and we're so glad that you stopped by and shared a little bit of your life and your journey with us, Alex.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for chatting.